Superman Unlimited issue 5, Dan Slott writing with Raphael Albuquerque on the art. So, you know, like, as much as I was a little hesitant about Slott initially, because I'd read some of his Spider-Man and I wasn't really, and it's not that I hated his Spider-Man, it was perfectly fine, but like, it didn't like wow me either. I think what I'm liking about this book is, one, it's mostly standalone stories, although this one's actually a two-parter. This is part 1 of 2.
Yeah.
But that's still pretty small in the modern comic world of, like, you know, 4, 5, 6 issue arcs. But I appreciate that it's doing a healthy job of having like consistent like supporting characters, like Tina, you know, at the Daily Planet, and she's setting up all this like, hey Lois, you can talk to all the other Daily Planet buildings via hologram now. You know, you've got that going there. You've got the ruler of the country, which I keep forgetting the name of, but you know, the Kryptonite country. So you've got that going on, and I feel like there's just like a nice running through line to it. And I do feel like, I don't know if this idea of all this kryptonite being around is my favorite Superman concept ever, but it does feel like something different. It does feel like Slott at least came in here with an idea of like, this is something that's going to shake up what it feels like to be in a normal Superman book, and let's just keep running with it and play with it and see what we can do in that new context. And yeah, sure enough, the main plot of this though ends up being that after all this Daily Planet stuff at the start, where they're establishing all these different Daily Planet, like, you know, connections and people talking, is that Superman pulls Lois aside and says, hey, Batman tipped me off. They're about to find in their kryptonite mines where the giant kryptonite meteor landed. It's now a mountain, basically. They're going to find a sunstone, which is like one of the stones that grew the Fortress of Solitude. So they'll so if whoever gets their hands on this, whether it be that country itself, or we're hearing Cult of Cobras like sneaking in and they're trying to steal it, whoever, we don't really want them to have this Kryptonian technology, so I kind of need to go there. And she's like, wait a minute, honey, that entire island is kind of deadly to you. What are you talking about? Cue the full page spread of him in his ship, but also his effectively an astronaut suit that's going to protect him from the kryptonite. So he's in like a full like hard hazmat suit for this issue as he's doting around. So I don't know, I thought that was a fun
DC,
visual. Yep.
If you're listening, I would like an action figure in a vehicle of this, please. I want the supercar with the arms and everything. Like, this felt very Silver Agey in its design. And then the Superman figure in the full like astronaut suit. And I think it's a really fun look. It definitely, you know, feels like something that we haven't seen in a minute. You know, the Superman that is very vulnerable, right? So he needs a suit like this. And it just adds that little layer of like unease, right? Yeah. Because if our invulnerable man is feeling vulnerable, what anything can happen, right? Like, so there really is a sense of that throughout the issue.
Yeah, I like the vibe of like all of this. I think I like the detail as well as he's flying in, where he's like, you know, a lot of these buildings that are green are actually just green paint. Like, they're just kind of branding because they're called the Emerald City now because of all the kryptonite, but they're not actually building all this stuff out of kryptonite, because that would be a waste of kryptonite to just have buildings made out of it. So they're just painting it green. I actually kind of appreciated that little detail. Yes. You know, because it's got more valuable uses elsewhere. Yeah. You know?
He says it's all lighting and green paint. Like, so I'm fine here right now. And then that really shows the difference when he gets closer to the mine and they have to go down to look for the sunstone. It's like, oh no, I can feel it even through the suit. You know, this is where it's dangerous. You know, so I did like the difference between those. You know, he's not as in the city where they're having a Superman parade, right? Because he saved this country of El Caldero when he stopped the giant mountain from crashing right into there by slowing it down enough. You know, and there's Superman balloons and everyone has the blue and yellow flags and red and whatnot. So, you know.
And that leads to a whole backstory we get, because we find out the president used to be a miner, as in a coal, or a, you know, goes into mines and mines. Not he was a child, because everyone used to be a miner in that sense.
Right. It's my favorite joke in Galaxy Quest when they go down to that planet and Sigourney Weaver goes, "Oh, they look like miners," and what's his name, Chen, the tech sergeant, Tony Shalhoub. He's like, yeah, they do look like children. It's such a good joke. But yeah, and he was the guy, he was like the foreman of the mine right? That they were at when Superman saved them all, right? Like they saw
Yeah.
Superman.
And he is the one that took charge when he's like, hey, Superman's trapped underneath all of this mountain, effectively. We need to keep digging. We need to get him out. So it actually makes him a more interesting character that he was there on day one and went out of his way to save Superman. And even points out that Superman had that gold shielding when he landed. But Superman has no memory of this. Superman just, you know, I think from what we heard before, he just kind of blacks out as he's like saving the stopping the meteor, and then he wakes up from the coma, and that's it. He doesn't know this little bit happened. But I thought it was interesting getting all this detail. I thought it fleshed out that character a little bit, because I think up until this point we've kind of seen him as like not like a villain, but he never felt like a good guy, you know. He felt like, oh, he's exploiting people, he's using this, he's probably more nefarious than he seems. But the idea that to see him like be the one to say, no, we have to dig to save Superman, like it does kind of like make it a little bit more complicated. We're like, oh, maybe you aren't just an evil asshole. Maybe there's a little bit more to you than that.
Yeah, I feel like when he's trying to defend his country, right? Like El Caldero, and then now they've seen untold fortune now, right? Like they are finally able to take care of themselves after being in between, you know. I forget what country is next to him, right? But like they're finally not being able to be exploited by bigger countries. You know, so he wants to protect that, but there is a sinister vibe to him when Superman shows up and is like, hey, so like, I need to get this piece of Kryptonian heritage. It cannot fall into other people's hands. And he's like, yeah, but if it's in our country, it's ours. Right. So there's like this sinister thing to him, you know, that ends up playing out in a fun, not a fun way, in a good way, you know, towards the end of the issue.
I mean, he comes off as antagonistic because he's like, no, it's our salvage. We're not giving that up. I mean, you're not the only Kryptonian either, so it doesn't have to belong to you anyway. So it does feel like he's butting heads with Superman, but then you get the backstory. And admittedly, it is him telling the story. It could be inaccurate. He could be, you know, some bias or some creative accounting going on. Anyway, but they're going into the mines because Superman senses that someone's found it. He can kind of feel it. So they gear up, they go in, they encounter a Cobra cult member who dresses a handyman or whatever, and this guy's got the sun crystal and he's running off with it, and all this is happening now. However, as much as I'm saying this president may not be the worst guy ever, when he catches this Cobra cult member, he punches him to basically bloody death. Like he's just like wailing on his head. It's super violent looking, and when he picks up the crystal himself, he sees like some of the Jor-El and Lara kind of messaging, it seems like, coming through, and he hears the name Kal-El, which maybe that's something that he doesn't know Superman's called Kal-El. So that's a whole thing. However, there's with them on the truck going in here, there's the local Daily Planet guy, right, who we saw earlier on talking to Lois, right?
Yeah, well, it's Ron Troop. He got sent there from the Daily Planet.
Sure, yeah.
Right? And he's covering the Daily Planet for Lois in El Caldera.
So he's there, and he's got a camera person with him, a camera woman, right, a blonde lady. Yeah. And she's filming this, and she captures this like violent like murder that this guy does. Well, I don't know if he quite finishes murdering him because he's kind of strangling him as he notices the camera it's pointing at him, but he yells he runs after her, and the cliffhanger is when he knocks this woman down, this blonde hair is a wig that comes off, and it turns out to be Lois Lane. And just to set up that this is despite all else a villain, because it's kind of made you sympathetic towards him because he helps Superman in the middle of this, in the backstory in this issue. He does say, I'm going to have to kill you because no one can find out that no one can see what I just did. So, and then we find out it's Lois Lane. So obviously Lois isn't going to die, but it does, again, add more layers to this character where, okay, he's willing to kill for this stuff, but he did go out of his way to help Superman. Which makes me wonder, was he a good person that has been just utterly corrupted by the money and power that all this kryptonite has led to, for him? Or was he always having this side, but maybe he still likes Superman? I don't know. It's interesting to see where it's going.
So here's my question, right? When he gets cut with the Sunstone and we see into his glove, what is that supposed to be? Is his hand changed, right? Because his hand looks green.
I just thought that. Well, yeah, I mean, I noticed that, but I thought that was just the lighting coming from the kryptonite that they're surrounded by.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
But it was really weird that they showed that it cut his glove. Right.
To be fair, you could argue why isn't the white glove also glowing green? Because that would make sense. I do think it's probably important that he got his hand cut. Like, I wonder if he's got, I don't know if he's infected with something, or maybe maybe the reason why the shard did show him something is because his blood has touched that, right? And it's like, oh, this is now bonded to you. This technology now is tied to you because your blood has touched it, if it remotely works that way. But it does seem like it emphasizes that cut on his hand when it happens.
Yeah, that's where I got a little bit confused there, of why they were showing us what are we supposed to be seeing, right? But then he sees that, and then he even says, though, Kal-El, he goes, it is his birthright, but I'm the only one that knows that. And that's where he goes to choke out the Cobra guy, and Lois films him. So
yeah, although having said
definitely,
that,
there's
having said that, though, after that cut and he's punching, you do see little shards of green coming up, but I don't know if that's just meant to be in the background on the cave walls, or if it's meant to be because but part of me is wondering, maybe his hands are green because he's been handling kryptonite too much, so his hands have just kind of turned green, rather than something that's specifically he's like a mutant or a metahuman. No, he's just been touching so much kryptonite that his hands have went green.
We know that kryptonite has a mutation property of it, and we've seen in different things with the radiation or whatever. I'm like, Kryptonite King makes for a very good name for a villain, right? So, if this is where we're building, where he, really starts to show himself and gets corrupted totally by the amount of kryptonite. I
don't know, because it makes
the man with kryptonite hands, that is a great moniker.
I don't know. It makes me think of Crypto King, which makes me think he's trying to shell out Bitcoin or some shit.
I mean, look, man, there's a bad guy's a bad guy, right? So, but yeah, very interesting. And then Lois getting into shenanigans. I'm very happy. I just wish we had a little bit more of a tell that might have been Lois.
I don't mind it not having a tell. I just kind of wish that it was. I wish they kind of just made more of an what am I trying to say here? I feel like she just kind of starts to be in the background at a certain point, as opposed to it being hey, all right, camera lady, grab your camera, and then have her just sort of say yes, boss, or something. Just something to sort of be a genuine introduction to her being there, as if it's been pointed out to you. That said, though, I do like the logic behind this, that she's worried about Clark going to this city because obvious reasons. So she actually kind of wants to go to keep an eye out for him, to watch his back.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably the primary motivation behind this. I mean, sure, yeah, she'll do the Lois Lane stuff, she'll get the story, she'll keep her eye open, but I feel like the primary objective here is to look out for Superman as opposed to anything else.
Yeah, she's protecting her husband. He's very vulnerable. Again, he's vulnerable, and she wants to try to look out for him as best as she can. And part of that is going and covering it with her own eyes and keeping an actual eye on his back here. So, because really the only way we get introduced to her is she's with Ron, and that's where Ron says that he's been here for the last 3 months, stationed there, and she's just kind of riding. And then the first dialogue she really gets is, I'm not getting any bars. I've lost my feed to the Daily Planet with the camera. So there's not even any real introduction, oh, you're the camera woman that's here stationed. She's there in the background. You
don't even need it to be a big thing. Literally all you need is one panel where he says, hey, grab your camera, and just have her pick up her camera. As simple as that sounds, it's just a way to say to the audience, hey, we're pointing out that she's here, because she's basically just a background extra without that. And that's what she feels like until the ending, where she's caught looking with the camera, and we get the reveal. So it's a minor quibble, all things considered, because I think it does work for a fun ending. I do like the whole vibes of Superman being in the astronaut suit to get close to kryptonite, and the vulnerability of that's quite interesting. So I think this is better than the main Superman book. I think this is a few issues in a row I've enjoyed it more.
I'm happy that there's 2 Superman books that I'm enjoying. So I'm gonna take that win.
So you hate Action Comics, do you?
No, But just in, usually there was like a binary when it came to Superman books. Like there was one that was really good and one that hasn't been, and the fact that right now 2 on the same week is a win. So, but the last month's issue had Superman Bat as well. So that will be peak. That'll when we get talking about, end of the year stuff, that'll factor in heavily, I believe. So this book's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I feel like you're being far too kind to the regular Superman book right now, but
look,
that's fine.
I'm on a high for this one issue of Superman 30. But yes, you're correct that this one has been better over 5 issues than the main Superman.
Yeah, not necessarily perfect, but I think it's been a more interesting book. It's been a more captivating. It's doing some more fresh things, and I'm enjoying the supporting cast. Like having someone like Tina be this recurring element. It's been a nice through line for it. So, what are you giving Superman Unlimited issue 5?
I'm gonna give this one 8.5.
But I don't think I'll maybe go that high. I'll go with a straight 8. But I do think we're hitting into great territory. I think this and the last issue have been the 2 best issues of this book.